In today's show, we talk to Wes Goldberg of Locked On Warriors about the Andrew Wiggins situation. It's coming up. Check it out.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On NBA. I am your Monday host, Josh Lloyd. I'm also the host of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball channel, so check me out over there. We are going to talk to Wes Goldberg of Locked On Warriors about Andrew Wiggins and the vaccination status and what that means for the Warriors this season. Today's show is brought to you by DirecTV Stream. You might know that familiar problem. You've got your live TV that you watch somewhere. You've got your on-demand shows somewhere else. You watch sports highlights on your phone, and then you got to go borrow someone else's login for something else. It's a hassle. There's devices and passwords, and everything's all over the place. Well, I want to tell you a way to get your TV together finally. It is called DirecTV Stream. That means no more juggling remotes. No more need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there is no annual contract. Get your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and TV shows all in one place. Get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. Check it out at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required, and content varies by package. All right, let's bring him in now. The host of the Locked On Warriors podcast, Wes Goldberg, is here with me. Wes, over the last couple of days, it has become apparent that Warriors player Andrew Wiggins is not vaccinated for COVID-19 and had applied for a religious exemption so that he would not have to miss all of the Warriors' home games and have the issue of not being allowed in the facility to practice, but that exemption has been denied. So as things currently stand, Wes, Wiggins is going to miss 41 games for the Warriors, all home games. That's where it currently stands. Is there any, what's the recent news or any word on whether this has coerced Wiggins to perhaps get vaccinated, if he's going, not coerced, but encouraged him to get vaccinated, or is he just going to be holding out and the Warriors without their starting small forward for half the year?
Yeah, this is a really strange situation, right? Because you use the word hold out there, and usually you hear that word in terms of contracts and things like that. But that's not the issue here. And Andrew Wiggins has not wanted to get the vaccine basically this entire time. I remember talking with him after a game last season when the vaccine was first made available. And he said, I'm not going to get it unless I absolutely have to. And now it's kind of to the point where, hey, man, you kind of absolutely have to now if you want to play. And he's not doing it. So, look, he applied for the religious exception, as you mentioned, did not get it. Maybe that was the last resort. I still believe that, okay, he gave it that one shot. And now this is the point where you're forced to get it if you want to play. And I have a feeling, and I think the Warriors are generally optimistic that push comes to shove, Andrew Wiggins will just get the vaccine and this will be a non-issue. But the fact that it's gone this far with training camp, 2 days away for the Warriors, that's not great either, because it's one thing for you to get the shot before training camp begins. But as you know, like, you can get the J&J and make it a one shot, or you go get Pfizer or Moderna and you got to get 2 shots. And then usually there's this 2-week buffers where you got to make sure that it's taken and all that. It's like, Andrew Wiggins is going to miss time. We just don't know how much. If he gets the shot right away, maybe he'll be ready for the start of the regular season. And if this thing is prolonged, if he tries to hold out a little bit longer, then yeah, he is going to have to miss home games.
Yeah, because it's 2 weeks after the final dose, whether that's of the one dose or the 2 dose, where you're considered fully vaccinated. So he's going to miss training camp, because I believe that the training camp is in San Francisco. Is it not, Wes?
It is, yeah.
So, like, for the Nets, their training camp's in San Diego, so those New York rules don't apply for any unvaccinated players that might be there. But for the Warriors, he's not allowed inside the facility because of the rules of San Francisco. So he's going to miss that those training camp days. Now, we talk about this is the last resort for him, and if he absolutely has to, and it does appear that is the case. But all the reporting around Wiggins appears to be that he is a guy that doesn't want to rock the boat and doesn't want to be a distraction, and he is a guy that not necessarily keeps to himself, but isn't that player who wants that focus and negative attention drawn towards him in the locker room. So you would think that if you put all that together, along with the fact that he's going to miss these games, and it's going to cost the Warriors a ton. It's going to cost them wins because we can criticize him not being worth his contract and blah, blah, blah. He's really good for them last season as a wing defender, and they don't have Klay Thompson for the first 2 to 3 months of the season. So they absolutely need him, and it's going to cost them wins, playoff seeding, a playoff spot perhaps. So you would think this would be the absolutely have-to scenario. Is that all accurate in terms of the way that his personality is, in terms of not being a guy who wants to rock the boat and wants to sort of fade into the background?
It is, and that was kind of what he was talking about. I remember having an interview with him after the Warriors first traded from him from Minnesota. He loved the idea of not having to be the star. You go to Golden State, they've got the stars. They've got Steph, they've got Klay, they got Draymond. Steve Kerr is kind of a star. Like, he's answering all these questions. He doesn't have to do any of this stuff. He doesn't want to be a distraction. Everybody around him says about how great of a locker room guy is. Like, you use the term doesn't rock the boat. That's exactly what he comes in, he does his job. They traded D'Angelo Russell for him so that he could just do his job, so they could fill in that need at small forward that they had after Kevin Durant left. And this is the opposite of that, right? This is getting a lot more attention and not for the right reasons. And you're absolutely right when you say that this is going to cost them. I mean, it is. You can slide Otto Porter into that small forward spot while Wiggins is dealing with this. And all right, at least that's a name. At least that's a veteran there. You could go with Moses Moody or somebody like that as a rookie. I don't think that they would go that far. But either way, regardless of what you do, it's not Andrew Wiggins, who was a good player for them last year. And they need him defensively. They need what he could do from a ball creation standpoint on offense. And they need every win that they can get, because I know that people think that the Warriors are right there at the top of the Western Conference, but this is also a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 2 years. You don't get to take regular season games for granted anymore. That's just not the way that it works for the Warriors these days. You have to win every single chance that you can. And if you don't have one of your better players out there, it's going to be really hard to do that.
Yeah, and look, this is a Warriors team that missed the playoffs last season. And to begin this year, if there's no Wiggins and there's no Klay, they're worse than what they were last season, because there's no Wiggins and there's no Kelly Oubre, who we can discuss the merits of how he played, but there's another capable NBA wing player on the team who's just not going to be there. So we're not going to have Wiggins, we're not going to have Oubre, we're not going to have Klay back, and you're going to be relying upon Jordan Poole and Moody and Kuminga and Otto Porter, who hasn't been healthy in 2+ years. So it's definitely a concern. Now, we know that Draymond Green is outspoken in many different areas of life and in basketball. How do you think, obviously he is a vaccinated player. Do you think that he is, and this could be just speculation, and you might not want to speculate on this, is he going to be someone like going to Andrew and say, look, mate, you've got to do this. We know that he is the leader of this team, the vocal guy. Would you think that that is something that he would take on board, like, you need to do this for us?
I don't think so. He is very outspoken. He is the leader, but he's more than anything pro player.
Yep.
Right? And I just don't see Draymond getting into somebody else's business. I could see Draymond, if anything, defending Andrew Wiggins publicly. And by the way, I think the same goes for Steve Kerr. Like, Steve Kerr is very pro player. I don't think that Steve is. I know that Steve believes in the vaccine and he's very pro vaccine. And just look at the politics around Steve Kerr. I think he believes that everybody should get the vaccine. And by the way, we don't know why Andrew Wiggins doesn't want to get the vaccine. I don't know if it's political. I don't know if it is religious. I don't know what the reason is. He hasn't talked about it. Obviously, everybody around him wants him to get the vaccine, but I don't think that generally the way that this organization runs, from the coaching staff and the players, they don't really get involved in other people's business in that way.
So you think it's more if the front office would be putting that pressure, or not pressure, but they'd be the ones saying, like, Andrew, look, we need you to do this. And if he didn't, do you think the Warriors would be looking to move on?
I think that what the Warriors will tell you is that, hey, we don't need to tell Andrew what's at stake. The government here in the Bay Area is telling him what's at stake. It's not us. We're not forcing you to get the vaccine, but the government is. And so if you want to play, it's out of our hands and it's out of your hands. This is basically what you have to do. And I think that's working in their favor, by the way, because, again, they don't want to get involved in players' business like that. They're not comfortable doing that. But this way, they can kind of use the government as the bad guy in this situation. So I think there's that. And yeah, maybe if this gets prolonged a certain amount, they will look to make some sort of acquisition at the small forward spot. Maybe they try to go sign a veteran or something like that. As far as moving on from Andrew Wiggins, like, it takes two to tango. Like, who's going to take Andrew Wiggins at this point? Not just because of the contract, because of the vaccination thing too. I know a lot of other states don't have the same rules, but it could be uncomfortable for other locker rooms if somebody like Andrew Wiggins is walking in there unvaccinated. So maybe they would try to move on hypothetically. I just don't see any takers at this point.
Yeah, look, the only two cities that have got these rules are New York, which of course encompasses the Knicks and the Nets, and it's San Francisco. But that's not to say that other cities won't institute a rule like this. Like that could very easily happen. Like we don't know. Like in 2 weeks' time, Phoenix could have it, or San Antonio could have it, or you could have it in Miami. Like who knows? Like that, this stuff could change at any point. And we can say, well, it's just here, and he goes to another team, and then he's set to play. He's just subject to harsher protocols and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. But that stuff could change in an absolute instant, and we just don't know where that's going to go. It is obviously a fascinating development and something that's going to have a real impact on teams and playoff races. And of course, Wes, whatever news comes out in the next couple of days, you're going to cover it for us all over on the Locked On Warriors podcast. Thanks for coming on Locked On NBA with me.
Thanks for having me, man.